Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to those of you who are watching live on Facebook. I want to start off my comments today to talk about some of the cases that we've been talking about recently, those involving guns and those involving organized retail theft, or what our retailers are currently facing out on the streets right now. And there was a case that kind of came together and demonstrates all of this. So it happened on September 7th. Michael Jacobs was at work at a CVS store in Mesa. A gunman entered the store and within a few minutes ended Michael's life. I want to announce today that that individual has been indicted on 6 counts, and as the ethical rules require me to say appropriately, charges are not evidence. People are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But the indictment is for first-degree murder, a dangerous felony, burglary, 2 counts of disorderly conduct for the individuals who witnessed the attack, tampering with evidence, and misconduct involving weapons, because this particular individual is a prohibited possessor. So I want to stop and talk about that for a minute. I am not interested in people who lawfully own or possess guns. What I am talking about is people who have felony convictions, whose rights have not been restored, who are in possession of weapons. We are seeing a huge correlation between individuals who do that and people who go on to commit violent, in this case, deadly crimes. One of the situations that we've been encountering is some of these individuals come from other states, and so their felony convictions are recorded in other states. We've reached out to the congressional delegation, members of it, here in Arizona, asking them to ask Congress, and I will add my voice to that, I am asking Congress to pass legislation that requires every state in the union to keep standardized records on people's felony convictions. My prosecutors have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt in court that the person has a felony conviction, and some states do not keep adequate records for that. So we've asked the congressional delegation to pass legislation that requires certain minimums. The other thing I want to talk about is bond. As you know, I've made it a priority that we will be asking for appropriate bond. We've seen bond amounts reduced in the past several years, and that stops with this administration. We are staffing the initial appearance court 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and we are asking for appropriate bonds. In this particular case, we asked the court to set a $1 million cash-only bond, and we received that bond. So people understand the difference between the types of bonds. Sometimes you'll hear that someone has a secured appearance bond. What that means is they only have to post 10% of the amount. When it is a cash-only bond, however, they have to post the entire amount. And that's what we sought in this case. And then let's talk about what our retailers are going through. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been working closely with several police jurisdictions, primarily Phoenix PD, to bring in some of the players in the organized retail theft world. Understand that organized retail theft is not limited to shoplifting. We've seen cases on the news in other states where people in organized groups will go into stores and take out large amounts of merchandise. We've made it very clear that that will not stand in Maricopa County. And the police understand the importance of catching those individuals as well. A lot of times people are using profits from the sale of those stolen goods to fund other criminal activity. This kind of goes back to what we learned from New York City in the 1990s, which is the broken window theory of justice. When you let the small stuff go, the big stuff happens. And New York City proved that by targeting lower level offenders and finding out that those individuals had guns on them, had warrants out for their arrest, had drugs on them. And so they proved that the broken windows theory works. Likewise, the LA District Attorney's Office has proven that it works by not doing it, and we're seeing the results of that. When they don't prosecute the little things, the big things get out of control, and that's exactly what's happening in Los Angeles. So what I would say is if people are coming here thinking that this is going to be another Los Angeles, you're coming to the wrong place. We are going to keep Maricopa County safe, not only for our citizens, but safe for our businesses as well. And just to give you some examples of some recent cases, I will point you to the case of Christopher Crocker. Mr. Crocker bragged to undercover officers about how much he stole and that everybody knew that he was good at stealing. He carried a knife with him, so that if somebody tried to stop him, he could use that knife. We prosecuted him, and Mr. Crocker is now in prison for 4 years and will serve a probation sentence when he is out. He will also pay restitution of more than $6,000 to retailers such as Target, Walmart, T-Mobile, TJ Maxx, Ulta, and Sportsman's Warehouse. That restitution will reimburse them, and you may say, well, those are big businesses, so what does it matter? Those costs are passed on to citizens of Maricopa County. That's what it matters. And so when we get that restitution money back, that is to go into the businesses so that they don't have to pass those amounts on to the people who shop at their stores. Another person I would point to is Jordan Young. Young was observed by police stealing, and he even attempted to sell some of his stolen goods to police officers. He too is a prohibited possessor, a felon, who was in possession of a gun, and he is now serving 5 years in prison with a probation tail to follow. He will be paying more than $18,000 in restitution. So the message of this is simply, we do prosecute retail theft. I've heard some store owners or businesses were reluctant to call the police because they think nothing will be done. And the police and the Maricopa County Attorney's Office want you to know that something will be done. It will be taken seriously. This is not okay in Maricopa County. So you don't have to put up with this. This is not the cost of doing business. So please report it to the police, and let's get those individuals out of our communities. And with that, I'll take your questions. Jimmy.
Thank you. Could you revisit your idea to standardize records on felony convictions?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a current template that you submitted that this would look like? Would it be a database, like a federal database?
It's not a database. It's just a law that requires certain records be kept. Let me give you an example. So if somebody comes here from another state, I have to prove in court beyond a reasonable doubt that these records pertain to that individual who's been charged. A lot of times other states don't have enough identifying information on the record itself so that I can do that. So what we've asked Congress to do is to pass a law that says when you keep these records, and the records are already kept in the state's database, we want to make sure that you have adequate identifying information on them so that if we have to prove that that person has a felony conviction, we're able to match it up to the individual sitting in court. So for example, in Maricopa County, when somebody is sentenced, they are fingerprinted at that time, and their fingerprint is put on the document, the sentencing document itself.
Okay. And this would help you combat what kind of crime?
Well, this would help us prove that someone has a felony prior, and that can be used in a number of ways. It can be used to show that they're a prohibited possessor if they have a handgun. It could also be used to show that the person has prior felony convictions for sentencing purposes.
Okay. And then another question from my newsroom.
Okay.
Do you have a reaction to AG Mays saying that Phoenix violated state law by sending seized guns to Ukraine?
I'm not going to comment on that right now because of the pending issues that are related to that, but we will get back to you at some point. Anything else? Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.